Everything from questions about cucumbers to homes on cul-de-sacs. You've come to the right place. Welcome to the Ask Mr. Green Thumb and Real Estate Show with Stan DeFreitas, the dad, and James DeFreitas, the son. For the next hour, call in with your questions in gardening, growing your favorite veggies, and growing your profits in real estate. Locally, call 813-289-1860. Toll free 877-969-8600. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And I am the dad, Stan, and James, you are the son, right?
Thank you for introducing myself. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's perfect.
Well, I knew you would, and everybody, you're doing well this morning?
I'm doing fantastic. And yourself?
I can't complain. I love the trip coming over. You know, the sun coming up, the lights, the birds flying by. Everything is great.
It was a beautiful drive over today. I must admit, I was at the light just before you get onto the Courtney Campbell, and I took a snapshot of the sun rising, and and watching it being perfectly filtered through the clouds, and it was a beautiful, beautiful sight.
And nice and crisp.
That's right.
I look at relatives up north, and they're seeing snow and ice, which is fine for the first, day or so.
Yes, but if they're in New York, they have outside dining, so that's nice.
Yeah, I was going to say they have to. Yeah, isn't that the truth? Speaking of someone from up north, from New Jersey, from parts unknown, for the third best chef in America, and Charles Knight and I worked together with the great, legendary Jack Harris for years. We worked on I think we had a 52 share. We had the second highest rated noon show. I say we did. I feel like I was a field goal kicker that kind of came in and did my shtick as far as plants. Charles was on more often than I was. And Charles, good morning.
Good morning, Charles.
Hey, Mr. Green Thumb, what's going on?
Well, I thought of you the other day. I was thinking, I guess, reminiscing of our days of huge numbers. And I must say, Channel 13 will never, ever, 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 never, ever have those numbers again.
That is true. Isn't that the case, man?
Because
that was an incredible show.
It was. I love Joe Wizicki. He was the producer. Great guy. Used to let me come in. He said, come in here and sit next to me. I'll show you how to be a producer. And so I'd sit in the control room with him, and he'd be telling the technical director, which camera to take. And he kind of took me under his wing, tried to show me a few things about how to do television. When Jack did something he didn't like, he'd be criticizing Jack for it. And, Jack would be doing his wowie, zowie, wowie, zowie. Green Thumb's growing some, because I grafted one time a tomato to a potato stem. And, Jack, he's in there. Green Thumb's growing some potatoes for your ketchup for his potatoes, or, one of his things there. But Jack could always make it fun. You could give Jack, I always said, little old ladies and babies, and he had them all in the palm of his hand.
It didn't seem to matter what kind of plant you brought in either. It could be a fake plant, and he would still scratch and sniff it and try to see what kind of odor it had.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that the truth? I'll tell you, Jack could make a rusty nail look good.
It was fun, though. It was fun to go do the segments, and Joe was great. I remember one time I went over there, and he goes, they didn't tell you, I don't have you booked today. And he goes, but you drove all the way over here from Pinellas. So he put me on for whatever, the 3 or 4 minutes on the segment, because somehow his assistant producer was supposed to call me and tell me to bag it that day, and they hadn't. But now, where did you come up with the third best chef in America?
Jack made that up.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah. He comes out. I remember one day, I don't even remember when it started, because we go all the way back to Pulse Plus on Channel 13.
Me too.
Yeah, way back then. And then it had to start probably when we were doing Harrison Company, sometime in the beginning, early 90s.
Way back. Yeah, I remember doing that too. The thing I loved about Jack is Jack's such a loyal friend. If he went somewhere and he liked you, he says, hey, come on over here. I want you to come on and do the thing on Channel 8. I said, but, we used to do the thing on Channel 13. And so, I literally, like you, I said, I think I've been on every channel in the market at least at one point or another for at least a little while.
Well, he was smart enough. He knew he had his cast of characters. I mean, not like we were any great talent or anything, but he had a feel for the audience and what they liked and what they wanted, just like he does now. I mean, God knows he's almost 80 years old. He's still on the air in WFLA. He
is, and he still does a good job. I mean, he's on there, and he's a fixture of Tampa Bay. And I hate to think of the day. I'm often when we get together for these old timer radio reunions, and we sit and have a beer together. He'll be telling me, "Well, they've renewed my contract for another 2 years or 4 years, whatever it may be." And I'll go, "Well, that's great, Jack. Well, they're smart to have you because you're a saged one and a word pundit. He'll come up with words. You're going, where in the heck did he come up with that word? You're looking the thesaurus up and the dictionary up because he came up with something that no one else has heard of hardly."
Yeah. Well, I come to think of it, I think I know where he came up with the third best chef. We were goofing around one day. Jack graduated first in his class from high school, and he did very well in college as well. But I think we were talking about, he started telling me that he graduated magna cum laude.
Wow.
And I said, well, that's interesting. I said, I graduated third in my class. He says, really? Yeah, I said third from the bottom.
Yeah.
So that may have, I don't know if that's spurred on, but I remember when he made the announcement, he's the third best chef in America. And I'm looking around like, who is that person? But it was a great run. I was on there for one or two times a week.
Right.
And that went on from the day it started. Of course, you know how it started. My business partner, Chef Tell, was living in Tampa at the time. Matter of fact, we lived across the street from each other. And I got him on the show first. And he was on, I think, for about the first 6 months. And then he decided to go back up north. We'd open up 2 restaurants, actually, up in Pennsylvania. So he decided to go back up there and manage them. And that's when I went on the show on a regular basis. So prior to that, though, Chef Tell opened the show, and that was, what was that, 92? Something like that.
It had to be way back. I mean, I think I remember being back on the show probably as late. I mean, I started radio around 77, and so I knew Jack. I'd met Jack a couple of times. And I remember one time I took James to go see Dr. Paul Bearer. James loved Dr. Paul Bearer. I've got an eye for you. He did the old spooky type show, and had his hearse that he drove to the mall.
That guy was great, man.
And
very kid friendly.
For a youngster, James just thought that was the greatest thing in the world for me to go take him to some guy who drove around in a hearse and had a funeral coat on and did all the creature feature type things, which I loved those shows because they were big. I mean, even back in those days, I started a show about the same time on PBS. For 12 years, I did a Mr. Green Thumb show. So I was doing both Mr. Green Thumb on for Saturday morning, and I always thought, it's funny. We did our little 3-camera shoot in the studio, and eventually I had about 85,000 viewers, and they came up to me. They said, you're doing better than the Bucks. I said, yeah, but I'm putting a better team on the field at the time. So, we had Bob Hoke. We took Bob Hoke. We went to Holland and did a segment over there. And Bob, I thought, about killed me because he got like 2 feet off the track and got his camera set so he could shoot this trolley car thing going down with all the black bicycles. I said, I looked at him like you were going to get killed. And he goes, I measured. I knew I had, a good 12 inches further from being hit by the train. And I'm going, yeah, but it didn't look like it to us. We were all thinking, how do we tell Bob's family that, we had to bury him in Amsterdam? But
oh man,
I remember. Now you made some always great things too. It's funny when you cooked in the studio. All of a sudden, there are cameramen and lighting experts and audio guys and people you've never seen before that will come out of the woodwork going, something's cooking.
See, that was the whole key. The food kept me on the show, I guess. But I've always liked to cook. I started cooking when I was a kid, And even in the Navy, although I wasn't a chef in the Navy or cook, I cooked for my crew. I was in the anti-submarine warfare squadron. We had a 12-man crew on what they call a Lockheed Electra, like the forerunner to the 727, which is boat as a prop. But we had a galley in the back, and I used to cook. I would cook because the ordnance man was so bad at it that I told him, I said, I'm going to hook up the radio back here, and I think I'm going to take over the job. But anyway, the captain found out of the squadron. We had 12 planes, so I ended up on crew 12 on the captain's squadron. It was great duty, So food does get you everywhere you want to go, I guess. I don't know.
Well, you made some tasty-looking items for sure, and you had, of course, a line of cookware that you were, I guess, are you still associated with?
Yeah, I mean, it's a family business. It's Healthcraft Cookware. We still that Narrowhead Cutlery, but I'm not active in that as much as, the old days. I was the CEO for, a number of years, and that wasn't fun.
Yeah, you had to really work hard.
Yeah, that was not fun.
I remember all the home shows and stuff you did. I did. Of course, I did hundreds of home shows, and you did too.
Right. Yeah.
And I remember you cut your finger one time on the air, and I thought, what a trooper. You wrapped your finger up on Pulse Plus, and you kept on going. And I thought only a trooper could make a pretty bad cut and keep on going. But you said you even had a funnier story in Baltimore, right?
Actually, it was in Washington, D.C. I was at the Armory doing a live performance, and I made a mistake. I've cut myself before. I mean, when you're a chef, you do. But
I think we're going to use this as the hook, though. I'm going to bring you back on that because it's time for us to pay some bills, and right. I can't do justice to your story, and it's too interesting not to. If you want to give us a call, the number is 877-969-8600 outside the area, or in the Tampa Bay market, it's 813-289-1860, and you can talk to us. You can talk to the good chef. We'll be with you on the other side of the break.
Want to talk real estate auctions? Call James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127 or go online at aflre.com. Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Green Thumb and Real Estate Show. Got questions about perennial problems with flowers? What about issues with closing on your newest property? Call now, 813-289-1860. Toll free, 877-969-8600. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And we're with Charles Knight. Charles, I know we were started on your story in Baltimore. I think you were giving a program there, and I knew we weren't going to have enough time, and I wanted to hook the folks out there so they'd stay with us.
Well, yeah. It's, like I was saying, when you're a chef, by the way, I never heard of a manure commercial.
Oh, with mature manure.
Mature manure.
Yeah.
Darcy the cow here.
Dorsey, we got Dorsey. We never had a cow that could talk before. Only on our show can you get a talking cow.
What am I missing? Well, getting back to the Armory, I was the Washington, D.C. Armory. I was doing a live performance. I must have, I don't know how many people in the audience. I mean, there's a bunch. I cut myself, and I've cut myself before. It's not a big deal. But there's a key to when you cut yourself. You never look at it. See? And I looked, and I passed out.
Oh, no.
Right on the stage. So
Lord.
Yeah, well, blood and needles are a problem for me. But
good thing you didn't decide to become an Army medic as opposed to a chef.
That wouldn't happen.
No, it's funny. My father was in the restaurant business, and it made me decide to become a horticulturist because
you
got to live with the restaurant business. I mean, I worked in it some.
Oh, yeah.
I helped do a little prep cook, that kind of stuff when I was a youngster. And I thought, my dad would go, you do this, you do this, you do that, you do everything. He had worked little tiny coffee shops and stuff, but he had worked as a manager at Chock-full of Nuts out of New York. And one of the managers that went around the different stores. And he was saying, we were making $1,000 a day just on the nickel cups of coffee. He said,
Right.
no, we're going back to, his time would have been the Depression time. He said, but that's one heck of a lot of nickel cups of coffee.
That's a lot of coffee.
And
Yeah, I tell you, the restaurant business, you've got to be a workaholic. There's no doubt about it.
Well, and the good news is now in New York and in other places, they can have outdoor dining with it being 22 degrees outside. So,
Yeah, that's terrible, man. I'm telling you, what they've done to the restaurant industry is just a crime. But the restaurant industry, interestingly enough, employs about 15 million people directly.
Sure.
And probably upwards of 50 million people total, with the suppliers, the grocery stores, the truck drivers. Everything you could possibly think about is going into that restaurant, right down to even a knife sharpener. We used to use the knives, throw them in a bucket. The guy would come every week, pick them up, give us a new bucket. I mean, that. And how many restaurants did that guy do? That's a little old man. I remember he was an Italian guy. He was an immigrant. But I mean, that's just like, if you've ever been in the restaurant business, all the little people that are involved.
Sure.
And the other thing is, the restaurants feed a lot of homeless people. I don't know about all restaurants, but it was not uncommon to do that. And also, any charity you can possibly think of, they were feeding. It's just the way it is.
Sure.
You have a heart for food, and it's not about making a profit.
So what is your recipe for the day?
Oh, my recipe for the day.
We'll think of one here. I'll put you on the spot. But I see you on Facebook sometime and other places doing a recipe, and I know Mikey in there goes, hey, get me a recipe, pal. I need a new recipe for my new home.
Well, here's the thing. See, I am the greatest misappropriating person of recipes in the world.
I admire that.
I don't claim to. I make up a lot of my own recipes. Cooking is chemistry.
You should have gone into politics.
Yeah, well, that too. But I ask people if I can steal their recipe. And if they don't give it to me, I change it.
I love it.
No, but here's a really good one. It's called a caramel flan. You know how to make caramel, right?
Yep.
Basically, you melt sugar. You put it in a spring-form pan. And the ingredients that go into this recipe are incredible because it's Coco Lopez, sweet condensed milk, even mascarpone cheese. And that is combined with about 6 eggs, and the recipe is incredible. If you ever fed this recipe to your guests, they would be your guests forever. This is one heck of a dessert. And I got this from a lady who used to come and clean my house.
Wow. So you never know where you're going to get these inspirations from.
It's called Puerto Rican cheesecake flan. And it's basically a cheesecake with it's the remnants of a flan, but it's a cheesecake recipe with the the caramelization of the sugar on the top of it. Starts on the bottom, goes on the top. Incredible recipe.
Now, Mikey in there has a pen and paper. He's writing this down. So,
well, you can go to healthcraft.com.
Healthcraft.com,
yeah,
right?
Just search flan. I've got about 300 recipes on the website, and then we've got about another 200 or 300 videos on YouTube with me and Jack. So you can see that on there as well.
Well, when Jack can't do it, I can always come over with you and go, hey, this is Jack from By God, West Virginia. And I can do a pretty good imitation of Jack Harris. So
he's good.
He is
we
good.
We went to West Virginia together last month.
Oh, did you?
Nice.
Yeah. Really something else.
I'll tell you what we're going to do. We need to go to SRN News. If you'd like, we're going to hold you through after the news. We'll come back for a few minutes.
All right. Sounds good.
Stay with us as the Plant Talk Real Estate Talk continues, and cooking here on the Yukon Cook.
Everything Talk.
On AM 860, The Answer.
Interested in having a home consult? Remember, you can reach Stan at 727-423-4794 or on the web at askmrgreenthumb.com. Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Green Thumb and Real Estate Show. Connect online at AskMrGreenThumb.com. Got questions on gardening, real estate, or both? Call now, 813-289-1860. Toll free, 877-969-8600. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And we're with Charles Knight, my old buddy from, well, way back from Pulse Plus and Channel 8. When we did a segment over there, we were at Busch Gardens every week for years. I mean, I went in once a week to do Jack's show. I think it was Tuesday or Thursday, and we just made it a regular thing. We used to give away, back then, we gave away a thing called Nutrisol. It was a fertilizer. It was a great water-soluble fertilizer. In my opinion, far superior to Miracle-Gro. But it didn't have the backing that Miracle-Gro has. I mean, I guess they're selling it now to the pot growers. But,
It's working.
It's funny. The owner of Miracle-Gro is real conservative, but if they can make millions on pot, it's not such a bad thing, you know?
Money tends to make it all right. Well, it's funny, just thinking back to Jack Harris. As a kid growing up, I remember the first time I ever remember seeing Jack is he was doing cash and carry commercials.
Oh yeah,
and I don't know if cash and carry is that still a
it's not a
that's a thing.
It's not a thing anymore. But
that's a thing that's gone. But I remember seeing that, and I was thinking, man, this guy's big time. He's doing cash and carry commercials.
Well, Jack's like all of us. You put a commercial in front of us, and there's some money in it, and boom, we're there. And Jack's good at it. But now, Charles, we were talking during the break, and we don't want to get too political, but we looked at all this latest bill with all the pork in it, and what kills me is that we're giving filet steaks with baked potatoes to around the world, and then we come back to the ramen noodles that we're going to give to Americans, and there is nothing in the bill to help restaurateurs and restaurant people. And to me, it's, as you said earlier, it's the backbone of our country are the people who serve us our food. And
there's no doubt about it. The restaurant business is entrepreneurial. So I mean, you really have to want to work to be in the restaurant business, and the employees too. But a lot of the employees, they always have this desire to own their own restaurant as well. So it's perpetuating. And, that's how they build McDonald's franchises, Jersey Mike's, and whatnot, because they get people from within and promote them out into franchise owners.
Sure.
And then, of course, there's the small businesses, the small restaurants and whatnot. It's the most entrepreneurial business that we have in the United States, and I think that is why they are the target. And if that's the case, I don't know that to be true, but it appears to be. If that's the case, then this country's in real trouble, that we have politicians in state and federal government that are targeting our businesses. And it's just sad, man. It's like it will affect if there's anything that can throw us into recession, it's take away the restaurants, because there's 25% of your economy right there. I mean, that's my guesstimate.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean,
it's also what puts a lot of kids through college and pays their bills. It put me through college and paid my bills. Heck, it put me through high school.
Sure.
So, well, and just like you were saying, Charles, I mean, the idea that you're going to have government come in and say we're going to shut you down. And again, I'm no socialist, but at the same token, I guess I am. If you're going to come in these cities and in states where you're going to come in and say you can't work. And kill the entrepreneurial drive that these people have, plus their livelihood, then you got to pay them. And I don't see where they're doing that, and they don't seem to understand. It's almost like we want to be so safe that we don't care if there's anything to come back to.
I don't think it has anything to do with being safe.
Well, yeah, and to me, there's this element of control that is not talked about, and people, and I've got some friends. Some of my dearest friends are what I would consider somewhat radical leftists, but again, they're nice people. I think they mean well, and I always try to find points of agreement. But the thing that I find a lot about them is it's like we didn't think it through in terms of the effects. And so what they ultimately come up with is this idea of they hide under the guise of safety, even though they don't realize at the end of the day you're making it to where people can't pay rent, they can't pay their mortgage, they can't do this, and what they have to come back to is nothing.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, it's only happened in a couple of states, but those states have been doing what they've been doing for eons. So that's pretty much why I left New Jersey.
Yeah,
too destructive in business.
Yeah, it's just too
And
heavy-handed.
Did extremely well in Florida, and I have a lot of great friends, and I love it. One of the good things about getting old is getting old.
It beats the alternative by a heck, doesn't it?
I like that thinking, because most people, all they do is complain about getting old. You're telling me that there's a silver lining here.
Well, you know how it is. I mean, you get to my age, you start thinking back about your old friends and, the relatives, and some are not here any longer. And, God, I was even thinking about some old girlfriends. I said, well, I'd like to see a couple of old girlfriends like that before I die.
Going to get you in trouble.
Well, that's what my wife said. She said, it might be today. So.
Well, it's funny. I said we had Aaron Foderman on from Tampa Bay Magazine, and he was saying his wife told him you can either. She said, I know you had a young girlfriend, and you had the restaurant, and if you got to pick the two, one or the other, she said, pick the young girlfriend.
Yeah, isn't that the truth?
Aaron's he should have been a stand-up comic, because he's a funny guy.
He's a funny guy,
but
no
as well as you are, Charles. But now, one of the things I've noticed too, if you've got good cookware, if you've got the right pans, everything's working right, you got the right knives, everything seems to be easier in the kitchen than if you don't. If you're using something, you're going, it's going to take me a half hour to cut through this, piece of meat.
Well, it is true, and if anybody's ever worked in a kitchen, at a restaurant, they know you don't typically have the best equipment, because if you did, it would be stolen.
Sure.
Some guys will bring their knives in and whatnot, but the pans typically in the restaurants are aluminum, and the reason they use aluminum because aluminum is a great cooking pan. It's just not the cleanest thing in the world, but no, you're right. For the home, it's a different ball game. It's like you got to have the right tools. You got to have the right tools, and it's important to know who you're dealing with too, because there's a lot of companies out there that make things that look good but don't cook good. So
sure.
Well, I mean, I see all these things where they're stone lined and that kind of stuff. What is that all about?
That the nonstick business is a great business, because you can keep getting the same people over and over and over again. So, that's a good business. I never get into the nonstick business, but I never had to. If you have quality, the people come back to you.
Well, I've heard that canaries and stuff died from the Teflon when they cooked with it one time.
Yeah, and a couple people probably too. So
yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, that's what you say, dying to get in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Bung bung. I don't got no respect from nobody. Hey, I'll be doing shows at 9 and 11.
We still do a lot of cooking. We seldom go out to dinner. We go out to dinner maybe once a week with Jack and Joy, and that's about it. The food at home is too good to go out.
Sure.
Yeah, well, especially when you're the third best chef in America.
Right. At your house, maybe, yeah. My house, grilled cheese sandwiches.
Well, you know how you can tell a good restaurant, right?
How's that?
Taste the soup.
Taste the soup.
Interesting.
Yeah, if the soup is no good, don't order anything else.
It's time to go to the next restaurant.
If they don't know how to make soup, they got a problem, because cooking is chemistry.
Sure. That makes sense. Yeah, and speaking of that, I mean, there's so many. Even though Florida has been a better market than some of the restaurants. I had a gift card, and I'm still upset about it. I had a gift card to Cafe Pont, and now I had to throw it away the other day because that
ship sailed.
That ship has sailed. They went out of business, I guess.
Oh my!
Yeah, it's unfortunate. But they had good soup there, I thought. For my uneducated palate.
So, it kills me too. I mean, all the recipes will say, salt to taste. I go see my doctors, and they go, no, you can't have salt anymore. That was a thing of the past. And I go, but I like the taste of salt. And they go, yeah, well, you like the taste of sugar too, don't you? I go, yeah. And they go, well, you can't have that anymore, neither. And I go, okay, I can't have salt. I can't have. When I talk to chefs, they go, I say, well, how do you get flavor? Well, we get flavor from salt and sugar. And I go, okay, well, how do I get that otherwise? And they go, well, you can, onions and garlic and things of that
Well,
nature.
you make a mirepoix or a sofrito, and that's how you start your soup off, by the way. It's always the same thing. Cooking is chemistry and basic procedures. It's not complicated.
Well, I think there are people out there who are great chefs, and then there are people who are not. My dad was a great baker type. You could give him dough and stuff and apples and whatever, and he'd make the greatest apple pie, and he just loved it. And he'd have, you have a memory of being with Popsy.
Sure.
When he would be throwing the stuff. James started to spill a little bit of flour one time when he was young. And so my dad took some flour and threw it on the floor, too, and just said, a good baker never worries about a little flour on the floor.
That's right.
That's great. Yeah, that's true.
Which I thought was good because...
Yeah, instantaneously made me feel better about making that mistake. So,
all right, guys, I guess I'm heading out.
Okay.
All right,
Really good.
we appreciate you being with us. Give
Yeah.
us a holler, and maybe we can line you up for, I don't know, Chef, not
Chef's
Chef
Minute of the
Tell,
Week.
but Chef Charles's recipe of the week.
Well, sounds good, man. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. Stay with us.
Thank you.
As the Plant Talking Real Estate Talk continues right here on AM 860.
Want to talk real estate auctions? Call James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127 or go online at aflre.com. Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Green Thumb and Real Estate Show. Got questions about perennial problems with flowers? What about issues with closing on your newest property? Call now, 813-289-1860. Toll free, 877-969-8600. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And we're here to help you with real estate as well. I mean, I answer questions about, if you've got cold damage, that'll be coming up the next week or two here as we're going down below freezing in some of the areas, especially north of the Tampa Bay market.
Yeah, not so much in Pinellas and Hillsborough.
Not so
right?
much. We're on the
Yeah.
borderline here, though there's some areas that, I used to measure the temperature for the U.S. Weather Service back when I worked with the Extension Service in a different life. We had a big field, and I had a big clock-like canister that I'd have to turn and wind it for once a week. And then I took the thing, and I would take the little cardboard thing off and send it off to the Weather Service.
Sounds high tech.
Well, it was high tech for its day. We're going back. That was in the 1970s, before I got into doing radio and television and writing books and stuff. But we're here. We're going to mention we just got a sale. We had it for 3 days, one of our longer listing sales.
3 whole days.
It was a property on 49th Street, and it's 3401?
Yeah, it was 3401 49th Street North, right off of 49th Street. What I really liked about this particular property is, and again, what a home is currently being used for isn't exactly what the next person may use it for. The home had been converted into having 2 businesses run out of it. One was a doggy grooming business, and another one was selling insurance. And so I thought right off the cuff, and again, one of the things I will say, even if you're an experienced agent, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're always going to sell it to the person that you envisioned you'd sell it to. And, and I think one of the things I was saying to you is, well, what do we care? I got the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time for the seller, for the client, and he was happy. The buyer's happy. What do I care what they're going to use it for? Even if it was my own interpretation of what I thought somebody would buy it for. I thought somebody would buy it as, for the commercial aspect, that they could turn it into, continue using some type of business or similar.
Sure, I was thinking
out of it.
doctors, lawyers, chiropractor, or something of that first in the front, and maybe still a doggy grooming business in the back.
Yeah, and of course
That's what I thought.
right. And again, I mean, what you originally think is rarely the case as to how it's actually going to go. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what its future use will be. But my guess is that property's highest and best use, I'll throw out a appraisal term there, probably at some point in the future it'll probably be converted back to being used as a commercial space again, because I think being off of 49th Street and having all those cars going by would, to me, from that angle, that would make more sense. From
you make
business.
Anthony Canaris happy when you say highest and best
That's
use.
right. That is right. That is my favorite appraiser / broker that I know of. So yeah. So but it's. So yeah, I mean, it didn't take long. 3 days. We had multiple offers. We had competing offers. We had an offer come in, and then we had somebody come in at almost exactly the same time as that they were making the offer, and it was for $6,000 more. And then I went, again, part of a real estate agent is to go back and play the master negotiator and making sure that you get the most for your client. Again, did I want the buyer to have a chance to be in on the process to win? Of course. But at the end of the day, I wanted the seller to get the most amount of money that they could. And if a couple extra phone calls in another day is what it took, then that's worth doing.
Sure. And I thought that was great. I felt bad for the agent who lost it, because he'd worked really hard up on the one in Arapico where we had sold the property.
But but it wasn't his fault.
No, he's a good agent.
Yeah, in either case, it's not his lack of being a good agent. The only thing I would probably, and I did say this to him in the phone calls, I said, you really do probably want to set them down a little bit more and put the educator hat on, because, and as much as I know that they don't like to hear the education aspect, part of the reason he's having trouble is because they're, some seller or some buyers are still thinking that they can finagle the deal and get a lesser price.
They're in charge.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's just
not in this market.
Not in this market.
Yeah, I mean, in some cases, it's funny. You come up with a certain price, and I know on the one up there, guy came back to me and he was $40,000 less. He goes, "Hey, I'm still going to give you the deal for $40,000 less." I said, "Well, I know you are, but thanks for playing, and you get showcase number 3 over here."
Oh, you're talking about the Arapica home?
Arapica home, yeah.
Yeah, that's another. I'd never heard of Arapica before. I'm sure that's some kind of. I think you told us
it's an Indian name.
Indian name, yeah.
It's like many places. We stole their property, but we left their name, which is mighty darn white of us.
We stole it and we killed them and gave them disease, and then we take the property and keep the name. So that's what we do. That's what you do to honor former people, I guess. I've never understood that, but nonetheless, that's our heritage. Yay! So, but yeah, that's an interesting community up there. They call it a fishing village up there in Arapica.
Beautiful place.
It really is. But again, 2-lane road in and out. A lot of motorcycles.
Yep.
You're gonna get used to hearing the roar of motorcycles going by. While I was hanging the sign in the yard, and submitting and getting an offer at the same time that I was hanging the sign in the yard. That was an interesting one. I've never had a situation where I couldn't get the sign in the ground before I had an offer in hand, which was weird. So, but we were already there, so I was like,
let's put the sign up. It's good advertising.
Let's put the sign up anyway, and at least we'll be advertising while it is in the process to get closed. So, but neat place. I liked it. Stone's throw away from the water.
It was very nice, and of course, Jeff's place is going to make someone, I think, happy, and I think we're going to look back from years from now and go, we sold it for that, and now look what it's selling for now.
Oh, without a doubt. Almost every piece of real estate you can point back to it and go, wow, I can't believe it went for so cheap. But it's like, it's like anything else. It's like gas prices. Once you get used to paying $3 a gallon, when it goes down to $2.15, you're going, wow, what a great deal. But it doesn't mean that that's a great deal. It just means you got conditioned into that price. So, and real estate's very similar in that regard. We get used to a certain price. But I will say this, and this goes to all of my real estate colleagues out there. We can't continue in this exponential pricing structure that I'm seeing and call that sustainable. Real estate practices. I mean, you spoke to an agent a few weeks ago, and the buying agent lost out on the property because somebody came in at $75,000 over the asking price, and so they lost.
Sure.
It just, it can't continue in this fashion indefinitely because it's not sustainable. I mean, that's just not.
Well, I know we were going to go to Mikey. I don't know if we'll have time for him. Maybe next week.
Yeah.
Because Mikey just got into a new home and he had questions.
Well, we can talk to Mikey next week.
We'll talk to him about that. But you're right. Sustainability, it can't. When you start losing a deal that's $75,000 or $85,000 more than asking price,
right?
How many people can afford to do that? I mean,
right. And last time, I talked about love letters. I mean, you have buyers submitting love letters to the sellers, trying to get them to say, "Hey, I'm the best buyer. Pick me, pick me." So I mean, you have people essentially begging and pleading why their competing offer is a better offer than someone else.
But Mikey said he liked writing love letters, so
there you go. Hey, well, he's a married guy, so obviously it worked out for him.
Yeah,
so.
He's gonna say, "Hey." He went in there and said, "Hey, I don't get no respect from nobody." hey, and they said, "Okay, well, we'll give you consideration to build this new house."
Exactly. So yeah, it's definitely one of those things. It's a very interesting real estate market, but I definitely think we should be paying attention to what's going to happen in the 6-8 months from now, which nobody really knows, but it'll be an interesting time. Well, another hour has gone by, and Dr. Bill Handelman will be up next, and so that'll be a great show for people to listen to and stay here.
Hey, he always promotes us, so we want to promote him.
That's right. We know he'll have our back.
We do. Have a great one.